What's poppin', y'all? It looks like we've got another update from Karrahbooo. She dropped another song. This is the second song that I can count that she's dropped on her own that wasn't her featured on somebody's track. BB Tricks was another artist that she was featured on, but she dropped another song and she put the following in the caption, which is, "I didn't get dropped. I'm still signed. Hence the reason I have not been able to drop. I was advised not to drop this way and do it through the quote-unquote label. The one that said they dropped me but would not let me go because they wanted me to stay, lol. The one that has repeatedly lied on my name to make me look bad in the media and has been pushing away bookings and deals. I could keep going, but the point is this industry is weird and confusing, and this is all messy AF and taking up too much time. They dragging it. I tried to listen and do it the right way, but it's been 6 months now, so I'm gonna go ahead and try my way." The first song that she had dropped after the situation with Yachty, which is whose label she was signed to, she was part of this group called Concrete, and Yachty was the guy that signed her. He put her on. He started dressing her from what we can gather, and they had a falling out. So she ends up leaving the group and announcing that she left, and it seemed like there was an amicable split. Before the split between Yachty and his podcast host happened, some drama happened there. Then Karrahbooo decides to chime in, and then Yachty decides to expose her by saying that she's a terrible person and she's rude to everybody, and then exposing that he was the one that wrote and gave her the reference track for the freestyle that she laid down on the radar, which was one of her biggest moments. This leads into her kind of stalling out for a while, getting some hate, and being in limbo. She didn't sign to another label. She didn't really drop music. She dropped SBM, which was in October, and she hadn't dropped since then. So October was 2+ months ago, and that song, it wasn't for me. I didn't think it was all that, but I'm not the biggest Karrahbooo fan. That type of music doesn't really appeal to me, but people were kind of mixed about it. But the most recent track that she dropped, I think there are interesting things to talk about here, not just in the music itself, but in regards to the image that she's portraying. Because from what we've been able to gather, a lot of the appeal and the uniqueness that you could say about Karrahbooo was that she was like early Coi Leray, in the sense when you look at early Coi Leray, look at her even I think before she was with Trippy, when she was still in Jersey, she was kind of tomboyish. She wasn't really dressing provocatively. She wasn't trying to use sex appeal as a marketing tool, marketing gimmick, whatever you want to call it. We'll call it tool because it's not a gimmick if everybody's doing it and it's working for the most part. With Karrahbooo, she was similar in that vein. Like she was wearing these baggy clothes, she was basically dressing like Yachty. She was wearing these baggy clothes. There was one video and she wasn't even happy that that video ended up getting leaked and spread. So number one, she didn't want to be known as having smashed Yachty, which I don't know if there's that rumor. It hasn't been substantiated in any degree, but clearly she wanted to nip that in the bud as soon as possible. And there was this other clip where she was like shaking her behind to some music in front of a car seat, in the front passenger seat of the car, and she didn't want that to represent her either. So she was wearing these baggy clothes. She just wanted to be known for rapping and kind of just being a cool girl, not being this object of desire. Yet in this music video that she's got, which is doing good numbers, like this is doing 192K in 2 days. If you look at the last music video that she dropped, that one did, and this was a couple months ago, that did 281K in 2 months. So this one's on pace to eclipse that if it continues on this trajectory, which I don't know if it will. It may just flatline. We'll have to see. Only time will tell. But in this, the entire vibe is different. While the music is relatively similar, you've got her wearing a tank, and it's not that her wearing this, I don't know if it's a tank or like a bra strap tee, whatever the item is called. Like tight clothing, damn near booty shorts with that Brazil outfit that she's got on. If this were any other rapper, it wouldn't be odd. But it's Karrahbooo, whose brand is the opposite of that. And then you got her like shaking ass, other chicks shaking it. You've got her in a bikini. I don't even know if we've seen that before, by the pool. And I have to reiterate, it's not the fact that she's in a bikini by the pool rapping. It's the fact that it's Karrahbooo doing this, whose brand has not been this. Whose brand wasn't, this is incongruent with her brand. That is not the issue, but what raises my eyebrow and brings questions, because what my natural assumption was, okay, she's probably signed to a new label and they're like, hey, just like they did to Coi Leray, they said, hey, you better start showing some skin. We need you to start blowing up a little bit more. We need some thirst injected into your fan base so people will pay attention to more of what you've got going on. And maybe she just went along with it. But she's clearly said that that's not the case. She's still still stuck at that label. She hasn't signed with anyone new. So I don't know what's prompting this. I haven't seen many people comment on this. And visuals are obviously important. It's part of the brand. And visuals are significantly more important for a female artist because they're judged more harshly on it. It is what it is. I'm not going to say it's unfortunate or anything. They have their, I would say it's more disadvantageous. It's more difficult. Costs more to be a female rapper in general. And a lot of people are supporting her. How? What do I think about the music? This song's good. I like this song better than SBM. And I like the mentality that she has where she's trying to consistently release music despite being in, they're confiscating her. It's like a boa constrictor. You're popping, you've got some sort of a wave. If they just constrict you and reduce airflow in this case being you dropping music, people talking about you, that's your oxygen. And the oxygen is generated by you dropping music, so people talk about you, listen, consume, and you stay at the topic of conversation. If they get rid of that oxygen, your career dies, even if you come back. And a perfect example of somebody that went through something like this, granted he was way higher in his career and way more poppin' than Karrahbooo, which makes it even more of a good example, because if somebody that had a hit and wasn't able to recover from being stifled and not being able to drop music for a year and a half, what would happen to Karrahbooo, who's never had a hit song? And that individual is Rich Homie Quan. So Rich Homie Quan, he was rolling with Young Thug. They had Rich Gang the Tour going on. But after that, he dropped Flex. And at this point, they had broken up. Flex was a smash hit. Young Thug at this time was flopping left and right, no hit songs. At this point, Rich Homie Quan left and he was bigger than Young Thug. I don't care what anybody says now. If you were there at that time and paying attention, and I was locked in at that point to Thug because I love Thug music. I love Quan music too, but I was seeing what was happening and I was frustrated with the performance of Thug's songs and mixtapes commercially. So I was like, man, Young Thug's gotta do something. And then what do you know? Rich Homie Quan's the first to catch one. Unfortunately, after Flex, he gets into some legal disputes with his record label. He wasn't getting paid. So for about a year, maybe a year and a half, he's not dropping anything. And Young Thug is flooding the streets. So people start to forget about Rich Homie Quan. And Rich Homie Quan does an interview after he's able to settle this legal dispute. And he said he couldn't drop music during that time. He talks about it during his some interviews afterwards. But he said he made a lot of money after, because he was able to settle that, get paid whatever money he was owed, whatever the case may be. But the problem is he was never able to recover from that. And some have said in retrospect that a lot of it had to do with blackballing, especially in Atlanta with gang activity and things of that nature. We're seeing a lot of that develop now with Nut, Donovan P. Nut, who was the manager or somebody that worked very, very closely with Rich Homie Quan. But if Rich Homie Quan just kept dropping songs after that, he was undeniable. He had a smash hit song. You can't really blackball that. Everybody wants to work with you. So for Karrahbooo's sake, I'm glad that she's dropping, and she needs to consistently drop. Like, Karrahbooo needs to make sure that nobody forgets about her, and she's constantly at the top of mind, and she needs to keep pressing the issue about her being stifled, her being held back. They don't want her to drop music, and she's going to continue to drop music anyway because she loves her fans so much. And fans are going to say, why isn't this on streaming services? Why can't you put this on streaming services? And the best thing Karrahbooo can say is, I want to put this on Apple Music. I want to put this on Spotify. But you guys know who I'm signed to. He's holding us back. And this really flips the dynamic of what Yachty is putting out is, hey, this girl's rude, terrible, I put her on, ungrateful, this and that, and she wants to leave, to now, man, he's not even letting her leave. He's not even letting her drop either. So he turns into a villain. She turns into more of a victim. People are going to be more sympathetic with her, especially anything label versus artist. People are always going to take the artist side, who in this case is Karrahbooo. And an example of the opposite of what happened to Rich Homie Quan is the Migos. So the Migos went through something similar when they were trying to get out of their deal with 300. They couldn't drop, or it was after YRN, which was their first album, although they didn't want to call it that. They called it a commercial mixtape. So after YRN, they couldn't drop music for a while, and Lior Cohen talked about this. And instead, what did they do? In an interview, I think it was with No Jumper, Murda Beats, he said that Offset and Quavo, or Takeoff, they were telling him to leak their music, because at this time when Migos couldn't drop, a ton of Migos music just kept leaking consistently, and they were hard songs, fire songs. And we were wondering, where are these songs coming from? Murda said he was leaking them, and he said that specifically the Migos, they wanted to keep performing and they wanted to stay hot. So they told him, hey, you can leak sporadically songs here and there, so we're still hot in the streets and people don't forget about us. And then once Culture dropped and once they were able to get out of that deal, they hit the ground running. Karrahbooo should take a note out of that. I mean, she's allowed to drop on YouTube. She just can't really officially drop it. But the frustration that the fans are going to have with not being able to easily access and listen to the music if they're primarily Apple Music or Spotify listeners, and they have to go onto YouTube, which may inconvenience them because they may get ads if they're on mobile, whereas they've got a subscription to Spotify or Apple. That's going to ramp up pressure on Yachty and that label to do something with her, whether it's to start supporting her because she catches a song that's doing really good, or it's to figure out some sort of an arrangement where she can leave and do her own thing. But let me know what you guys think about this in the comments. Like and subscribe and hit the notification bell if you enjoyed. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you for watching. Peace.